the a-hole for insisting that my aunt pay me $1,500 per hour to tutor her son. To pay my way through law school, I ran an LSAT tutoring service, though I have since stopped offering this service. But that didn't stop my aunt from calling me up Saturday attempting to hire me to tutor her son. Even if I were still offering this service, there are multiple reasons why I wouldn't take my cousin as a client. Firstly, and most importantly, my cousin is lukewarm at best at the idea of becoming a lawyer. Secondly, only one law school in my country requires the LSAT, and it is reconsidering whether to continue this requirement at all. Thirdly, my cousin is only 16, so his focus should be on his high school exams, and not an exam 4 years away that may not even be required. Despite this, my aunt was adamant I tutor her son. I offered to send her my old notes and call some of my students to see whether any of them would take my cousin on as a client, but she insisted it be me. Because my aunt wouldn't take no for an answer, I tried a different tactic, charging a rate of $500 per hour. I'm well aware that my time is not worth anything close to this stupidly outrageous rate, so I was hoping that it would scare my aunt away. Well, it did, but just a bit too well. My aunt took offense to my offer, and quickly transitioned from guilt-tripping me, "We're family are supposed to support each other," to being outraged. "You greedy, ungrateful, you little poop stain. Your parents didn't do their job with you, did they?" etc. I'm not sure what I'm being ungrateful about, as my aunt has never done anything for me. Regardless, I laughed at her and said, $1,000 per hour then. My aunt fired off a few more choice words and then hung up. My mother called me a few hours later and asked if I were willing to apologize, send over the notes, and call my old students to keep the peace, as a favor to her. My mother is an angel, but she has let her family walk all over her entire life. And frankly, I'm sick of letting her family walk all over me too, so I refused. My mother wasn't happy with my decision, but accepted it, and I thought that was the end of that. But earlier today, my aunt had the audacity to send me this text. "Here's my email. Send me the notes." Maybe this wasn't the best decision, but I responded with this text. "Here's my bank account details. The rate is now $1,500 per hour. So why do I think I'm the a-hole? Well, at this point, I'm just goading my aunt. That being said, I thought I was more than reasonable throughout this entire exchange. But maybe I should have just said no and been firmer on that stance. Her Wedding Day asks, "Am I the asshole for refusing to walk my daughter down the aisle?" My daughter, a 26-year-old female, and I haven't spoken in years. When she was 15, we found out she wasn't my biological daughter, and my wife had cheated on me years ago with a friend. As it turns out, this so-called friend was suddenly interested in playing dad. My wife and I divorced, my daughter learned the truth, and I told her I still loved her no matter what. Of course, she was interested now in getting to know her biological father, and while it hurt, I tried to accept that. She started pulling away from me after that. Even when trying to still do things together as a family, she was no longer interested. The last straw was when she was 20 and living at my house. We were arguing because she dropped from her college courses, hasn't done anything for 3 months, and mad because I told her she either needed to go to school or work if she wants to stay here for free. She told me I'm not her real dad, so stop pretending like I am, and she'll just go stay with her real father. That broke me, honestly. But I told her if that's how she really feels, then there's nothing really left to say between us. And she did move out to go live with him. I was depressed for a very long time, drank so much. My son, 24-year-old male, was my only reason to keep moving forward. For the first couple of years, I reached out to my daughter. She wanted no contact. I learned to accept that and move on. It helped me find more peace in my life. My son stopped talking to her for a while over this, and was really angry with her. They still chat sometimes, which doesn't bother me at all. Through him, I learned her biological father died October 2019. Also that she's engaged. She reached out to me, first that she knows that we haven't talked in a while, but wants to ask me if I'd be willing to walk her down the aisle. After a pretty long message about how much she hurt me in the past with her actions, I told her no. She didn't want me to be her father anymore, so I learned to no longer view her as my daughter. This turned into a fight between us, because according to her, it's not her fault she wanted to know her real dad. And I agreed with her, it's not. But what was her fault was how she treated me ever since. In my mind, I know if he hadn't passed, we wouldn't even be speaking right now. It ended with me telling her I hope she enjoys her wedding, but I want no part of it or her life. My son's told me she's ranting to my family that I'm ruining her day, and she thought parents are supposed to love their kids unconditionally. My brothers seem to think that now I'm being an asshole, and this is my chance to be in her life again. But I have no interest in that. Still seems everyone has a strong opinion on it that I'm making it difficult for my daughter to have the wedding she wants, when it would mean a lot to her. My son is on my side, but the comments are still wearing me down, and just for the sake of my sanity, Am I being an asshole? Am I the a-hole for reporting my coworker to HR and our manager's manager? My department at work is just me, my coworker, and our manager. Both my coworker and I have the same title and duties. My coworker has volunteered that she, 1, has been diagnosed with both ADHD and anxiety, and 2, doesn't take medication even though she needs it because she feels more free and creative without it. She can't focus on anything. She is constantly distracted. She starts tasks and leaves them unfinished. She procrastinates on everything. I can't stand having meetings with her because she can't focus. She doesn't do things if they make her uncomfortable, like talking on the phone some days if it's a bad day. We work in a field that is licensing and regulations. Think accountant, attorney, things like that. When she doesn't complete things, I have to do it because there's a legal deadline. When she doesn't return calls to clients because of procrastination, I'm left scrambling to apologize and do it. Or just leave it except for 1, missing deadlines, ignoring clients, and procrastinating on tasks has real work consequences and could lead to bad things and problems for people. And 2, it could affect my own license and standing because I'm equally responsible for the department. My coworker just laughs or blows me off, and my manager never does anything when I bring up the missed deadlines, not returning calls, emails, etc. So I ended up reporting my coworker to HR and my manager's manager because my wife convinced me to do so. I had to fix a mess she made by missing a deadline that badly affected a client. I spent time on the phone with a client who was in tears. Normally I keep the offer separate from the rest of my life, but I cried myself hoarse when I got home. I didn't mention her ADHD or anxiety when I reported. I stuck to facts about deadlines, clients, procrastination, and other things going on in our office. My manager's manager was livid. I found out he ripped my boss and coworker a new one. From now on, my manager and coworker are going to have their work checked externally. He apologized to me and several clients. Why I'm second-guessing my decision now is because my manager and coworker are angry with me. My boss pointed out that I have no idea what it's like to have ADHD and anxiety. She says my coworker's doing her best, and I just made it worse. My boss said I should have just continued on and left her alone, and now I've made her life harder, and she's feeling worse. My manager said my coworker was inconsolable and can't understand why I would tattle. Both of them are giving me the cold shoulder. My intention wasn't to hurt my coworker. I just thought my manager's manager and HR needed to know how bad things got. I admit I never tried to find a solution with my coworker. I'm hoping to be pregnant by the end of the year, and I know the stress and losing sleep won't help things. I honestly didn't mean to hurt my coworker. Confused Cookie 8 asks, am I the asshole for refusing to go to my sister's college graduation? She's 4 to 5 years younger than me and about to graduate college. The whole family is angry at me for refusing to go, especially her. Long story short, back in high school, I was a beast. I was bullied and made fun of by other students. By the time my sister was in high school, and I was in my early 20s, I had lost about 100 pounds. Everyone congratulated me, except her. Instead, she made fun of me for being too thin, anorexic, told me to eat more, and, geez, what's wrong with you? She laughed at me, and other things like that. Ironically enough, she was overweight in high school during the time she made fun of me for my weight loss. I know she was a teenager while I was a young adult, but it still stung, and she continued to do it until I began emotionally eating and regained some of the weight. Then she stopped when I was no longer thin. Fast forward to a few years later or so, and she's about to graduate college. I've regained about half the weight. I'm on the verge of being overweight. My psychiatrist diagnosed me with binge eating disorder that I've been battling for the past few years. On top of that, my sister's no longer overweight and is almost as thin as I was back when I was a young adult, her age. I congratulated her and never made her feel bad for it. She never apologized to me for what she did in the past, and part of me is tempted not to show up at her college graduation. Am I the asshole for not wanting to? I married my current wife 6 years ago. She has a 14-year-old son, and I have a 16-year-old son from my previous marriage. We normally don't deal with a ton of issues as a blended family. My stepson Joshua is nice to everyone and likes sharing a lot. It's his way of forming strong bonds. My son Scotty, however, is the complete opposite. He hates sharing and is very private. He takes offense to his brother going into his room and borrowing stuff from him. He hates that Joshua does it frequently, but my wife and I thought it was completely normal as long as Joshua returns everything later. Scotty started complaining about it openly lately, saying Joshua has gone too far with his behavior, taking his stuff constantly without his permission. My wife and I came up with a solution, which was getting Scotty a safe to store his valuable possessions, but Scotty said this wasn't enough since he has tons of stuff and can't put it all in a safe. It all came to a head last week when Joshua took Scotty's Lego collection to take pictures of it outside the house and accidentally broke a couple of pieces. Scotty blew up and got his mom involved. My ex-wife then bought and sent him a lock to install on his bedroom door the same day, which got my wife so mad, calling her disrespectful and overstepping to send locks over to our house. They had a verbal fight on the phone, and I returned home to see my wife arguing with Scotty after he refused to return the lock. I asked what the heck was going on, and my wife said Scotty was expecting her to let him install the lock his mom sent to our house. She said neither boys were allowed to have locks. Scotty said he was done with Joshua taking and breaking his stuff, and begged me to say something, convinced my wife to let him keep the lock. But I told him my wife was right, and that it was disrespectful of his mom to send a lock to our house. Scotty said if we're so against his mom getting him a lock, then I should get him one instead. But I refused to, since my wife said neither boys are allowed to have a lock, so it's not like Joshua has a lock and Scotty doesn't. Scotty threw a fit, calling me terrible, and that he can't wait to move out and be done with our nonsense. We had Joshua apologize, but still Scotty isn't having it. My former in-laws argued that I was being unfair to Scotty after he complained to them, and told me to let him keep the lock, and not side with my wife and her son. So am I the a-hole? On the one hand, I can want to see keeping things fair for both boys. However, this isn't fair to Scotty at all. You're not respecting his privacy, you're letting some other kid go into his room, touch and break his stuff with no real repercussions. And Scotty's basically being told that his feelings and emotions aren't valid in this situation, which I think is completely unreasonable. So yes, you're the a-hole here, and you can also expect to have a son who's never going to want to talk to you after he does move out. But I'll be waiting to read that Reddit post when you're asking why you have a son who wants nothing to do with you after you've been such a great dad.